Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a little confession. There came a time in my life when I discovered something uncomfortable, something I hadn't wanted to admit. I wasn't behind on my work. I was behind on myself. I was keeping up with the deadlines, doing the tasks, showing up where I needed to be, but deep down I knew the truth. My job was getting stronger, but I wasn't. My responsibilities were increasing, but my personal capacity wasn't catching up. I was busy, yes, but I wasn't growing. And that's when I remembered one of the greatest lessons ever handed to me. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Now, when you first hear that, it sounds simple, maybe even obvious. But I promise you, it's one of the great turning points in life. Because most people work hard on their job. They work hard on their chores, their duties, their obligations. But very few people work hard on themselves. Very few say, let me build the person who builds the work. And that, my friends, is where the real magic of life begins, on the inside, not the outside. I realized something else. I was doing a lot, but I wasn't becoming a lot. And Jim Rohn taught me this. If you want your life to improve, you must improve. If you want your circumstances to change, you must change. Not your neighbors, not your company, not your government, you. And so I made a decision. For 30 days, I would take that idea seriously. Not as a quote, not as a slogan, but as a philosophy. For 30 days, I would become the project. I would invest in my mind, my habits, my skills, and my direction. I would work harder on me than I did on anything else. And let me tell you, when you turn the spotlight inward, when you begin measuring your days by the strength you gain instead of the hours you spend, something remarkable happens. You discover that success doesn't start with luck or opportunity or timing. It starts with the person you bring to the moment. It starts with your value, your discipline, your awareness. It starts with who you are becoming. So let me take you through this journey, what I learned, what changed, and what you can begin today. Because working on yourself is the greatest project of your life, and the return on that investment is extraordinary. Now let me take you a little deeper into what sparked this whole journey. One day, I caught myself in a moment of quiet honesty, and it wasn't easy. I realized I had confused activity with achievement. I was busy. I had no shortage of motion. Emails, meetings, obligations, errands, doing this, fixing that, plenty of activity. But as Jim Rohn used to say, you can be busy and still be going nowhere. And that was me. Moving, but not advancing. Working, but not growing. Performing, but not becoming. Have you ever felt that way? You lay your head down at night, exhausted. But when you ask yourself what actually improved, what skills sharpened, what habits strengthened, what clarity gained, you hesitate because you realize the truth. You didn't progress, you just maintained. That's when it hit me. I was maintaining my life, not multiplying it. And there's a world of difference between the two. Jim Rohn taught that your life doesn't improve by chance, it improves by design. And design requires awareness. It requires stepping back far enough to see the pattern of your days. And when I stepped back, here's what I saw. I had become very good at keeping up with everything around me, but not with the person I needed to become. I was updating my inbox, but not updating my philosophy. I was serving the demands of the day, but not serving the demands of my potential. And if your potential is starving, your future will be too. That realization was uncomfortable, but necessary, because until you know what's wrong, you cannot make it right. Until you recognize a pattern, you cannot rewrite it. And until you admit that your progress has slowed, you won't restart the engine. And let me tell you, working on yourself starts with honesty, not ambition. So I made a promise. No more confusing motion with meaning. No more mistaking tasks for transformation. No more letting the day use me. I would use the day. That was the beginning. The day I said to myself, let's stop merely doing and start becoming. And that single decision opened the door to everything that followed. So let's step into day one, the day everything begins. And let me tell you, the first day of any journey is not the loudest, not the most exciting, but it is the most important. Because on day one, you're not just starting a routine, you're declaring leadership. And the first person you ever lead is you. Not your team, not your family, not your friends, you. On that first morning, I felt something strange. Resistance. Not from the world, no, the world was quiet. The resistance came from me. My habits didn't want to change. My comfort didn't want to surrender. My emotions wanted one more slow morning, one more easy decision, one more postponement. Isn't it interesting? We ask for a better life, but the moment it requires a better version of us, something inside says, maybe tomorrow. But Jim Rohn taught me something priceless. You must learn to discipline your disappointments and command yourself into action. Because if you don't lead your emotions will lead you. And they rarely lead toward growth. So on day one, I decided something simple, almost embarrassingly simple but powerful. I would begin the day before the world began me. And here's how it looked. First, I read 10 pages. A small investment, but a mighty one. Because reading feeds your philosophy, and your philosophy feeds your future. That morning, my mind felt like it woke up before my body did. Then, I wrote my goals. Not for the year, not for the decade, for the day. Clarity doesn't come from thinking, it comes from writing. Putting words on paper forces your mind to decide what matters. And finally, I made one promise. Just one. Not 10, not 5. One promise to myself that I would keep no matter what. And here's the lesson Jim Rohn taught me about promises. The greatest form of self-respect is keeping your own commitments. When you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust. And people who trust themselves become unstoppable. Now, the beautiful thing about day one is not the results, it's the realization. When you start a journey of self-leadership, you discover how easily you've let the day run you, how quickly you surrender focus, how often you allow urgency to replace purpose. But when you begin leading yourself even for an hour, you start to shift the direction of your whole life. So that first day wasn't flashy. It wasn't a grand transformation, but it was a declaration. A quiet, private, powerful declaration that said, from this moment forward, I will not only work on my tasks, I will work on me. And that declaration became the foundation of everything that followed. Now, before I take you further into the journey, let me lay down the foundation, because without a foundation, even the best intentions fall apart. You see, when I told myself I would work harder on me, I quickly discovered something important. Working on yourself isn't vague, mystical, or mysterious. It's practical. It's specific. It can be broken down, measured, strengthened, and repeated. Jim Rohn used to call this the disciplines that build the person. And as I studied this idea, really studied it, I realized that personal growth can be organized into 4 powerful areas. Think of them as 4 pillars. If one is weak, your progress wobbles. If all 4 are strong, your life takes on a new level of balance and power. Let's walk through them. 1. The mind, your personal philosophy. The first area is your mind, your philosophy. And Jim Rohn said it best. Your philosophy is the greatest determining factor in how your life works out. It's not the economy. It's not the weather. It's not your boss or your neighbor. It's how you think about those things that shapes your decisions. Reading, listening to good ideas, thinking deeply, this is how you rebuild your philosophy brick by brick. When I committed to self-work, I knew I had to feed my mind daily. Not occasionally, not when I had time. Daily. Because your mind is the factory of your future. And if the factory shuts down, the product will show it. 2. The body, your energy, your machinery. The second area is your body, your energy system, your machinery. And Jim Rohn used to say, treat your body like a priceless instrument. Why? Because your body is the vehicle that carries your potential into the marketplace. If the vehicle is weak, the mission slows. If the vehicle breaks, the mission stops. During my 30 days, I realized something profound. Self-work doesn't stick when your energy is low. You need vitality. You need strength. You need discipline in your physical habits, even small ones, walking, stretching, hydration, rest. The body fuels the mind fuels decisions, and decisions shape destiny. 3, the skills, your value in the marketplace. The third area is skills, what you can do, and how well you can do it. Jim Rohn often reminded us, you don't get paid for the hour, you get paid for the value you bring to the hour. And value comes from skill, communication, leadership, creativity, problem solving. These are skills that compound over time. During the challenge, I made a rule. Every day, I must increase my value in some way. Even 10 minutes of concentrated learning can raise your worth in the marketplace. Over 30 days, it becomes noticeable. Over a year, it becomes life-changing. 4, the character habits, integrity, and self-trust. And finally, the fourth area, character. This is the quiet part of growth, the invisible part, the part nobody sees but everybody feels. Character is built through habits, discipline, promises kept, decisions honored. It's about who you are when no one is watching. Jim Rohn taught me a line I never forgot. The greatest gift you can give to others is your own personal development. Because when your character grows, your confidence grows, your integrity grows, your influence grows. During the 30 days, I paid close attention to small moments. Did I keep my word? Did I finish what I started? Did I choose long-term gain over short-term comfort? And with every small victory, I discovered something incredible. Character compounds. And when character compounds, your whole life begins to elevate. So these 4 areas became the blueprint of my self-work. Mind, body, skills, character. Strengthen these pillars. And everything else, your work, your relationships, your finances, your future begins to rise. Neglect them, and life becomes unstable, unpredictable, and often disappointing. This foundation set the stage for the journey ahead. Because once you know what to work on, you finally understand how to grow. Now, let's talk about the part of the journey most people avoid, the struggle. Somewhere between day 8 and day 15, the excitement faded, the novelty wore off, and the truth came knocking. Discipline is challenging. Discipline is inconvenient. Discipline demands more from you than you're used to giving, and that's when the old habits began whispering again. You know those whispers? Just skip today. You've done enough. No one will know. Start again tomorrow. And if you're not careful, tomorrow becomes the graveyard where self-improvement goes to die. Tomorrow becomes the place where dreams get rescheduled until they disappear. Jim Rohn used to say, the road to someday leads to a town called nowhere. And I didn't want to live in that town anymore. So yes, the struggle came. And when it did, it didn't come politely. It came with resistance, with excuses, with the temptation to return to comfort. Because comfort is familiar. Comfort is safe. Comfort is easy to justify. But here's the truth. Comfort is a slow death for your potential. Around the middle of the challenge, I woke up one morning feeling tired. Not physically, mentally. I thought, I'm not seeing big results yet. Is this even working? And that's when Jim Rohn's voice came back to me. Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. And I realized something important. The pain of staying the same would always be greater than the pain of change. So I pressed on, but not with force, no. Not with willpower alone. I pressed on with awareness, because discipline isn't about being strong all the time. It's about being aware when you're weak. It's about recognizing the moment you want to quit and choosing to stay. During those tough days, I learned one crucial lesson. Momentum doesn't protect you from excuses. Discipline does. Discipline is the guard at the door of your habits. And if that guard gets sleepy, the old patterns will walk right back in. The struggle taught me something else. Transformation is not born from comfort. Transformation is born from conflict, the conflict between who you are and who you want to be. And in that conflict, you must choose. Will you serve your future or surrender to your feelings? Will you rise for your potential or retreat into your past? Will you strengthen your identity or repeat your excuses? Those middle days built a truth inside me. If you stay consistent through the struggle eventually becomes strength. And that strength, that identity, that rising self-respect became the fuel that carried me into the breakthrough. Then something remarkable happened quietly, almost subtly around the second half of the challenge. Not in a dramatic way, not like a movie scene, but like sunrise, slowly, gently, inevitably. The breakthrough arrived. And let me tell you, when consistency finally starts to work in your favor, it doesn't whisper, you begin to feel it in everything you do. Around day 15, the discipline that once felt heavy began to feel natural. The reading I had to push myself to do in the beginning, now I looked forward to it. The daily writing that felt like a chore became the moment I gained clarity. The small actions I once forced myself to complete began to feel like part of who I was. And that, my friends, is the secret. Consistency doesn't just build habits. Consistency builds identity. I noticed something interesting. I started making better decisions without trying. I had more energy without adding hours of sleep. I spoke with more confidence without rehearsing. I carried myself differently, not because life changed, but because I changed. Jim Rohn used to say, success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become. And suddenly that line wasn't just a quote, it was happening in real time. As I grew, my life responded. As my philosophy strengthened, my actions improved. As my actions improved, my results followed. You see, when you work on yourself daily, something interesting occurs. Problems feel smaller. Solutions come faster. Fear loses volume. Confidence grows roots. It's not magic. It's maturity. And the world begins to notice. Not because you brag, not because you announce your progress, but because change has a way of revealing itself. You begin to speak differently, move differently, decide differently. People say there's something about you. They can't put their finger on it, but they can feel it. And what they're feeling is your growth. But let me explain the real breakthrough, the one that matters most. One morning, I woke up and realized this powerful truth. I no longer had to push myself. I was being pulled by the person I was becoming. That's the turning point. Discipline turns into desire. Effort turns into identity. Consistency turns into character. When you reach that point, when you begin to want the very things that once felt difficult, you step into a new version of yourself. A version that doesn't negotiate with excuses. A version that respects its own potential. A version that attracts opportunity instead of begging for it. And that's when I understood exactly what Jim Rohn meant when he said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job, and you'll make a fortune not always in money, but in life. Because the real reward wasn't the habits. It wasn't the productivity. It wasn't the results. The real reward was me, a better me, a stronger me, a more intentional, more disciplined, more valuable me. And once you become that person, life begins opening doors you didn't even know existed. Now, after the breakthrough comes something even more important, the system. Because once you experience even a glimpse of your potential, the question becomes, how do you maintain it? How do you repeat it? How do you turn progress into a lifestyle instead of a phase? And Jim Rohn would always remind us, success is neither magical nor mysterious. Success is the natural consequence of consistently applying the fundamentals. So I began gathering the fundamentals. The small daily acts that build a person's value, shape a person's character, and transform a person's future. And from those days of practice, those days of experimenting and adjusting, I discovered a simple blueprint, something anyone can follow, something practical, measurable, powerful. A blueprint for daily self-work. Let me give it to you now. 1, 10 minutes reading, feeding the mind. The first piece of the system is reading, even just 10 pages, because reading introduces you to new ideas, and new ideas birth new decisions. Jim Rohn used to say, miss a meal if you must, but not your reading. Why? because your mind is the architect of your destiny. 10 minutes a day strengthens the architect. 2, 10 minutes writing, designing the day. The second piece is writing. Writing your goals, writing your intentions, writing your priorities, because the hand disciplines the mind and the mind disciplines your behavior. Writing forces clarity, and clarity is the rarest form of power. Each morning, I wrote down who I wanted to be before I stepped into the world that would tempt me to forget. 3, 10 minutes skill building, increasing your value. The third piece is skill development. Just 10 minutes. But 10 minutes every day is not 10 minutes a day. It becomes hours, then weeks, then mastery. Jim Rohn said, learn to do something valuable. And value is a skill. Whether it's communication, leadership, creativity, sales, or strategy skills make you valuable, and the valuable attract opportunity. 4, 10 minutes physical movement, boosting your energy system. The fourth piece is your body. You cannot maintain your growth if your energy collapses. Even a simple walk, some stretching, a brief workout, anything to remind the body that it is a partner in your success, not a burden. A strong body supports a strong mind, and a strong mind supports strong decisions. 5, 1 daily promise strengthening your identity. Then comes the anchor of the entire system. 1 promise, a promise you keep no matter how you feel. A promise that teaches your subconscious, when I say it, I mean it. It can be small, it can be simple, but it must be kept, because identity grows from promises honored, not promises made. 6, 1 future action moving your life forward. Every day, I ask myself, what 1 thing can I do today that my future self will thank me for? Not a big thing, just 1. Message someone. Learn something, build something, fix something, begin something. A small step toward the future keeps you emotionally alive. 7, evening reflection, harvesting the day. Finally, every night, I sat for a moment and asked, what did I gain from today? Not what I did, not what I finished, but what I gained. Because Jim Rohn said, don't just go through the day, get from the day. Reflection turns experience into wisdom. Without reflection, you repeat mistakes. With reflection, you evolve. So this became my system. Mind, pen, skill, body, promise, action, reflection. Simple, practical, repeatable. And here's the real beauty. You don't need 2 hours a day. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need extraordinary talent. All you need is consistency applied to the right areas. And when you do this day after day, something extraordinary happens. You stop living by reaction and begin living by design. You stop hoping for success and start preparing for it. You stop waiting for opportunity and start attracting it. Because a person who works on themselves daily becomes the kind of person life cannot ignore. Now, let's talk about what happened after 30 days. Not the fantasy results, not the exaggerations you hear in motivational circles, but the real results, the quiet results, the ones that matter. Because here's what Jim Rohn taught me long ago. The major value in life is not what you get. The major value in life is what you become. And after 30 days, I realized something surprising. I didn't become faster. I became clearer. I didn't become louder. I became stronger inside. I didn't become perfect. I became aware. And awareness, my friends, is the beginning of transformation. Let me share the most meaningful changes. 1, a clearer mind. The daily reading, the writing, the reflection, they sharpened my thinking. My mind stopped running in circles and began moving in straight lines. Decisions were quicker. Choices were easier. I had direction. And people noticed. They said, something about you seems focused. And they were right. Self-work gives the mind a compass. 2, a stronger sense of direction. Before the challenge, I woke up reacting. After the challenge, I woke up deciding. That tiny shift changed everything. I no longer asked, what do I have to do? I began asking, who do I want to become today? And when identity leads, behavior follows. 3. A higher personal standard. One of the greatest discoveries was this. When you keep promises to yourself, your standards rise. Not pressure, not guilt, standards. And when your standards rise, laziness feels out of place, excuses feel embarrassing, and inconsistency feels unnatural. Not because someone is watching, but because you are watching. 4. Confidence you can feel. Confidence didn't arrive from big accomplishments. It came from small victories stacked daily. Reading when I didn't feel like reading. Showing up when the old me would have delayed. Choosing growth over comfort. These tiny acts built a quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't shout. The kind that doesn't need applause. The kind that says, I am becoming the person I can rely on. 5. People responded differently to me. Now here's something fascinating. When you work on yourself, the world works with you. Opportunities appear. Conversations change. People treat you as the person you're becoming, not the person you were. And that shift, that social feedback loop, is one of the strongest motivators on earth. Jim Rohn used to say, success attracts success, and it's true. Not because of luck, but because people are drawn to responsibility, clarity, and direction. When you improve yourself, you become a magnet for growth. 6. A new relationship with time. Before the challenge, I felt chased by time. After the challenge, I felt in control of time. Why? Because I was using my days intentionally, not accidentally. And when your days have purpose, your months gain momentum, and your years begin to transform. 7. A new identity taking shape. But here is the greatest reward of all. I began to see myself differently. And when you see yourself differently, you live differently. I no longer saw myself as someone trying to grow. I saw myself as someone committed to growth. That identity shift changes everything. Because behavior bends to identity. And identity, once strengthened, becomes automatic. And that, my friends, is the real reward of 30 days of self-work. Not the habits, not the tasks, not the routines. The real reward is who you become along the way. A better thinker, a better leader, a better giver, a better creator, a better human being. Jim Rohn was right. When you grow, everything around you grows with you. Your relationships deepen. Your opportunities expand. Your future opens. Because the world cannot resist a person who consistently invests in themselves. So now we come to the end of this journey, 30 days of working harder on myself than I did on anything else. But let me tell you something important. When the challenge ended, the practice did not. Because personal growth is not an event. It's not a project. It's not a moment of motivation. Personal growth is a lifestyle. And once you taste the benefits, once you feel the clarity, once you experience the confidence of becoming more, you never want to return to who you were. Jim Rohn once said, for things to change, you have to change. Not someday, not when you feel ready, not when life gets easier. You change now. You begin now. Because the best time to build a better you was yesterday. And the next best time is today. After the 30 days were over, something stayed with me, something powerful. I realized that the greatest project I will ever work on is me, my habits, my philosophy, my character, my direction. And if I ever stop that work, I slow the momentum of my entire life. So I kept going, not with pressure, not with perfection, but with purpose. Because now I understood the secret. Success doesn't follow hopeful people. Success follows prepared people. Success follows disciplined people. Success follows people who show up for themselves daily. And here is my invitation to you. Start your own 30-day journey. Not my version of it, yours. Start small. Start simple. But start Because the day you start working on yourself is the day you begin constructing the future you deserve. Remember this. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need extraordinary talent. You don't need motivation every morning. All you need is a moment of decision and the willingness to keep that decision alive every day. Jim Rohn used to say, don't wish for a better life, work on a better you. Because when you improve, everything you touch improves. When you grow, everything around you grows. And when you rise, life rises to meet you. So here's the final thought to carry with you. Your job will give you a paycheck, but working on yourself will give you a fortune. Not always in money, but in wisdom, in confidence, in opportunity, in freedom, and in the deep satisfaction of knowing that you lived life deliberately. Start today. Improve yourself, and let your future thank you for the person you decide to become.